Ready.
All right, everyone, welcome to our little demonstration of the Thunderstorm generator. I'll show you some footage of some testing that we've done. The guys are going to, after that, explain how the system works. If there's any questions, there's a bunch of information there, and we're going to hang around for questions. But what essentially we want to show you is what the technology does, which is essentially neutralize or remove the pollutant, harmful gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide, hydrocarbons that you would associate with a combustion engine, and effectively what's coming out is pretty close to breathable air. So it's a pretty fascinating science, and we've done our own retrofit on this gasoline generator. We had the fortune of borrowing a cane gas analyzer, which is for testing vehicle emissions, that we're able to use, and we've done a comparison with this generator and another generator of similar size. So you will have to probably look into the top corner of the screen to see the analyzer running as we do the footage, but we'll play the video, and it's only 7 minutes, and then we'll get the guys to explain how it all works. So
watching the video as well. It's on YouTube. We'll give you a link to watch it.
yeah, there's links on there with the QR codes if you want to see the video afterwards or have another look at it. So let's play.
And yeah, so that's ambient air, pretty much shows zeros across the board, except with a 21.1% oxygen.
Oh, you got to press, yeah.
Oxygen, 1% oxygen. Carbon dioxide, 3% and rising. Sorry, carbon dioxide is 9% and rising, and carbon monoxide, really bad stuff, is about 3.5%. Also, you've got nitrous oxide at 66 parts per million, which is not too bad for you. Placement's directly inside the muffler. So we've got oxygen at 2.2% at this moment, did go down as low as 1.3%. The carbon monoxide is at 3.8%, the carbon dioxide is at 10%, and the nitrous oxide is at 118 parts per million, so not too much nitrous oxide. So that's on the unmodified generator, running with 1,000 watts of load. Is it? Was it 1,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so now on to the modified unit.
There is a bit of a lag between like putting the probe and getting the results on the thing, because the probe placement is directly into the new exhaust port on the Bolac. So it's had enough time to draw through the air and get a reading on what's coming out of that exhaust port now. We're at 20.75% oxygen. Ambient level was 21.1. Okay, so we're very close to the ambient level of oxygen coming out of a generator. We've got 0% carbon monoxide, 0.29% carbon dioxide. So substantial, like orders of magnitude reduction in the amount of gases coming out there, and we have 0 parts per million of nitrous oxide.
So that's just running 100% on hydrogen. It's not a shandy of petrol or anything.
No, it's not a hydrogen.
It's petrol.
This is a petrol generator. This is just simply a modified petrol generator.
Yeah, okay.
All that's been added is the Vajra, the ionizer, and the bubbler.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's but it is just a standard petrol generator, and it's quite an old one at that, so it should have been running quite dirty, but unfortunately we don't have results from before it was modified on this particular unit.
Yeah.
So. There, and it's still getting 20.2% oxygen out, 0 carbon monoxide, 0.29% carbon dioxide, and we're on 1 part per million of nitrous oxide. A little bit more at 0.95%, and the nitrous oxide is 9 parts per million. Consists of predominantly the iconic part is the Vajra, which is this device here. Okay, are you guys familiar with Vajra?
This thing here.
It's named the Vajra, which is because that's you got your little thing? Yeah. So that's like it has a similar form to that, and the Vajra is the mythical weapon of god Indra. Okay, and it was an energy weapon, which is, I guess, there's many reasons why it sort of connects, but anyway, so this has been nicknamed the Vajra. It rolls off the tongue a little bit easier than Thunderstorm generator. And yeah, so that's this piece here. This is basically what you have is another one of these shrunk down to a certain ratio inside of there, okay? And then inside of that smaller one, you have just a sphere at either end, and what they are is vortex flow guides, okay? So this part here would mount to your exhaust manifold. All right, so that just goes straight on where the muffler used to go, okay? And that goes into the outer sheet, so the outer layer of space that's created in here, and it's put in at an angle. So basically what you do is you creating a sort of vortex flow that flows down towards here, and then that becomes your new exhaust port. All right. The carburetor air is coming from the other parts of the installation, so that's the ionizer, which is basically just a container with a reptile UV globe in there. There are better solutions that we're working on, but it's a 25 watt globe.
Yeah, I think so.
So this is the only extra power that you're adding into the, which when you're talking about a 3000 watt generator, it's a fraction of the power that's being output, so it's a very minimal energy input. That ionized or charged air is being pulled through this copper pipe into the bottom of this cabinet, which has an air stone in it, and then a bunch of steel wool and scouring pads.
There's one here.
Yeah. So it's going through the air stone, going through these, and producing this sort of frothing, bubbling mass, which is the idea of which is to create microcavitation. So it's the action of the engine that's actually pulling the air through, just as it would pull through air into the carburetor normally. And because you've got the pistons doing the stroke and backstroke, what it's doing is it's creating negative pressure, which draws the air up, forms these bubbles because of the interference of the pads and because the air stone's produced them already. He likes it. And then when it's the backstroke, the valve closes, the pressure changes, and the bubbles cavitate. Okay, so basically, we're trying to create very small bubbles. This is what we believe is happening. So it's not been like academically sort of proven, but what we believe is happening is with these very small micronized bubbles that have this charged air that's coming in through the ionizer. When it cavitates, it will sort of pinch towards the center and form this sort of toroidal shape of charged air. And the goal with this is to produce things that are called plasmoids. Yeah. So basically, start with your bubble, you get a pressure change and it pinches in towards the middle, and you end up with part of that being these free electrons which are moving in a particular toroidal geometry that's very much like a smoke ring. If you guys have seen a smoke rings last a lot longer than you sort of imagine they would. They sort of travel through the air without dissipating, like when you just blow smoke out of your mouth. And that's because the energy in that smoke ring is geometrically constrained or coherent. Okay, so that coherence allows it to sort of maintain its shape. But when you're talking about electrons, you have a different sort of set of characteristics, which are, you've got electrons which are, when they move, that's a current. When a current moves, you have a magnetic field, which is that right-hand grasp rule. When you put that field into a particular geometry, put it into a spiraling geometry, you get massive concentrations of these electric and magnetic fields. So we believe that what's happening is that incredible density of forces is allowing the nuclei of the elements the molecules of the elements to disassociate and become a sort of soup of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So once it's in that soup configuration, when it falls out at what the ambient configuration of that primal matter would be, and in this case air, at around the 21% oxygen concentration level. So that is what you get.
The significance is that we've got a technology that will essentially take a combustion engine, which we all know produces harmful gases, and we can't operate inside a garage or a closed space. This is effectively giving us an output which is pretty much close to or near ambient breathable air with no harmful gases.
If not sometimes slightly more pure than the air that's going in, depending on the environment in which you're using it. And it will fall out at the combination that is right for the sort of atmospheric conditions that you have. So where we did the test, it was 21.1% oxygen. If you were at the top of Mount Everest, it might be 6% oxygen. And if you were running this there, then it would fall out at 6%. If you're running it at the Dead Sea, maybe it would fall out at 22% oxygen. Okay?
You can't really understate the significance of the technology. You have something that's actually, imagine every combustion engine being able to operate with zero pollution and having no harmful impact on the environment, and that's why this technology is so incredible.
Possibly even in environments like India, slightly cleaning the air on top of just, you know.
Dave, am I right in saying that certain governments around the world are looking at it and going, yeah, this is right, this works here?
Yes.
Yeah, we're not so totally privy, but we do know that is, you know, we know that
a lot of stuff is happening in India and in some of the Middle Eastern nations, but again, we're not really in a position to talk about that. Sorry? Like is it sequestering carbon or something like that, do you think? It's not. You do get, you will find, like, they start up pretty dirty, and one of the sort of things about this technology is that there's a bit of a charging period, so you run it for a while once you've done the installation and you're sure that you've got all your vacuum seals and all that sort of stuff. You run it for a while and you'll still get the same results, and they'll eventually start to creep down. But then what will happen is when you start up the engine, it will start working automatically, so it sort of charges up the system. These plasmoids are basically, other words for them could be exotic vacuum objects if you want to go more sciencey, or ball lightning if you want something that's a bit more, in this case it is a micro ball lightning, and they're analogous to static electricity. It's the same thing. It's just static electricity as a confined charge, geometrically confined charge.
Yeah, Dr. Bobby, you've got questions?
I know the scientist is coming. It's going to...
Because they're offset to get it spinning, does it make a difference to clockwise, anti-clockwise? Is that anything to do with it?
Yes, these are counter-rotating vortices. So that
one goes one way?
Yes.
And is that the opposite what things want to try and do naturally with machinery, or is it just something?
No, I don't think, I mean, the sort of vorticular motion of exhaust gases is not really something that they pay too much attention to. They don't try and sort of coax it or anything like that. There's not much coaxing going in here, except for the input and output pipes are just at a specific point that sort of encourages that, and the shape of the device encourages
The
that
only reason I
vorticular
ask
flow.
that is a lot of inlets on, say, a Harley engine, that they put a spiral mark in the intake of the carbon.
Yeah, it's like rifled, yeah.
Yeah, and some people like to put it crisscross, so it makes it act different. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, crisscross would give you more of a laminar flow because you would sort of cancel out that
Oh,
sort of...
so that's right. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
dummy here.
But yes, I mean, it's a very simple thing. The one that I've got was pre-made with maybe $120 worth of parts, and then some probably much more expensive labour of a boilermaker to do the welding, because that's the complicated bit. But he very kindly did it for free for me. So if you watch the build guide, which is on the Alchemical Science YouTube channel, that's another thing I'm sure you guys are mostly aware of. This is an open source project, so all of the build guides and everything, if an individual wants to make one themselves, they just look it up and they just get the parts and they build it, or they can order a kit. In the near future, there was a bit of a false start on the kits and some problems with those because they were kind of operating independently. But in the near future, there'll be kits available, but we're not associated with that. It's an Alpha Prospects thing. Plasmoid Power is the name of the company, and yeah, so you can order them pre-assembled, it's a fairly decent value proposition, because sometimes finding a welder who can do that kind of level of precision and complexity is difficult and can be expensive.
One question with the exhaust, does it create a heat out the exhaust, or is it?
Yeah, in this instance, the exhaust comes out probably, you measure, it's about the same as what you'd expect, like about up to 260 degrees.
As a normal exhaust would?
It's about what comes straight out of the thing.
It can get slightly hotter than the exhaust gases due to the reaction that's occurring inside the Vajra or the.
But there are instances where it gets colder. It depends on the configuration. In this case, it's basically a minimum viable product that produces a result. Obviously, you've had to take off your muffler, but things are being worked on where you can add a muffler back on, because it's quite a loud operation. But
yeah, that's my next question. What's the decibel level?
It's super loud. This one.
But it's like a rickety old generator. Like it makes a sort of popping generator sound. So, I mean, my personal opinion is that benefits outweigh the noise. Just put it further away from your house or your caravan or something like that. But there are ways that.
I don't believe there is any restriction on putting a muffler back on there.
No.
It's just that we haven't done it because we're obviously, this is a prototype. This is a demo test unit.
Yeah.
In fact, there are other ways that you could construct a muffler using some of the principles within this that would, make them more effective and smaller and things like that. So there are. This is kind of like this is a practical demonstration, a very basic practical demonstration of a slice of physics that's been missing, that slots nicely in between the quantum and standard models, and it's just really strange that no one ever cottoned onto it.
Could it be hooked up on a car engine?
Yeah, they have converted car engines. So, I mean, obviously a little bit more complicated because of the components, and it's easier to do it on a stationary small engine than it is. But Malcolm and others have definitely
It's definitely been done, and there are other ways that you can handle these sort of bubbler and ionizer side of things. Part of the reason that this is, as the minimum viable product, is set up the way it is, is kind of as an educational tool as well, where you've got these specific components that you can talk about, rather than making things too complicated, maybe integrating certain parts of it. But this particular setup is cheap and easy to construct and assemble. The testing is actually probably the most expensive part, because you need to find one of these gas analyzers, and the industry grade ones cost anywhere upwards of $6,000, and are pretty hard to find. Back in the day, any kind of like turbo timer shop would have had one of these, but now they do all the testing on dynos and things like that. So we're hoping to have some units that can be sort of moved around Australia for people who do need to do testing and don't have access to that kind of equipment. But we just need you guys to build some, so we've got a business case to sort of do that.
There's a 300 kilowatt generator in London that's running with one of these. It's been running for several years and had very good results. There's diesel engines that have been converted. I believe there's technology that can be retrofitted to coal plants as well.
Yeah, this can go on anything from a two-stroke whip snipper to a like, you do use a very small version of it, but it's a scale invariant, so it scales up from anything from a very basic combustion engine all the way up to power plants and industrial chimneys. So it's not limited to being specifically a combustion engine. If you've got a hot, dirty source of air, you can, with various compensations for, you might not have the sort of carburetor intake and the suction, but
love it, don't they? Correct.
But you can
scrubbers and all those.
These guys were at the expo in New South Wales, and I think it was a mining company that was interested in the technology.
Yeah. So I ended up speaking. That was actually after the thing. I ended up chatting. On the last day, we went for dinner at a pub, and the guy behind me and I just started chatting, and he was interested, and he said, "Oh, could I put that on a Bobcat?" And I said, "Yeah, yep." And he said, "Could I put that on a Bobcat that operates underground?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's a really interesting use case, because operating underground, you can't have things that are producing, silent killers like nitrous oxide. Carbon monoxide." So yeah, there are unique use cases. Apart from the fact that it's got a use case for almost anything that is burning combustion, like combustibles. There's also unique use cases that aren't immediately apparent until you sort of consider environments where those gases simply cannot be present for health and safety purposes and things like that. So yeah, it's a very expansive product. I didn't finish answering your question, sorry, about the carbon. So we're not sequestering any carbon. We're actually reconfiguring it's transmutation that's occurring here. Transmutation, alchemy, turning lead into gold. We're turning carbon into other products.
There's proof of a lot of this as well. Like, there's been one of these that have been opened up by the inventor and sent through testing and all that sort of thing. You can see a lot of it on Martin Blackman, the Royal Project on YouTube. He's actually proven that it's not just collecting the carbon on the inside. We are getting the transmutation, and that's where you get a lot of the sacred geometry coming into it as well. Certain things that have been around for a very long time, you can get the same geometry that's inside this, that's inside the pyramids, sort of thing. So there's so many connections that this technology has been around for a very long time. So,
in fact, you see, like a lot of this is, like I mentioned, the smoke ring before. If you look at old buildings, even around Australia, any ones especially built by masons, you've got things like take for example the Greek Ionic pillar or Ionic column. This is a white column. You've all seen them before, and you've got these sort of like linear lines going up, and then it goes up to the top where you get these two swirling curls. That's like a cross section of a smoke ring. Okay, so that's when you cut the smoke ring in half, you have these two counter-rotating vortices. You also see the same thing if you get your hand and put it in the lake there and like run it through like that. You often see these two little dots in a swimming pool. You'll see two little shadows on the bottom, and they stay for a long time. Like they stay a lot longer than if you just threw a ball in and saw ripples. Like the ripples would dissipate because of chaotic energy. When you put your hand through like that, you're actually creating this coherent energy, these geometric structures, vortexes, which are self-sustaining for a lot longer. They have this non-radiating boundary, they're not losing energy.
Well, what about with an older motor, say an old motor that's blowing a bit of smoke?
That one was.
Yes, compared to
The dirtier the better.
That generator's had a very hard life.
Yeah.
He was.
So if say an old motor blowing a heap of smoke out and you put that on it.
Yeah.
It seems to deal with it.
Yeah, you should get good results. I mean, you'll see this thing if it's been cold for a while. The thing is, these need to be isolated because it is an electromagnetic system. Okay, so when you're charging up the metals, so these these plasmoids, they like to find spots in the metal lattices where they can sort of live, where they can sit stably, and so they're ready to go once things start happening. Which is why there's that initial lag time on getting the results, and then later on you turn it on and you start getting results straight away. You can take the bubbler and the ionizer off and you keep getting results for a while until it goes down. So that's when you're depleting the plasmoids that have actually infused with the materials in the generator.
So your water's not a consumable item?
I mean, over time, we're talking extensive periods of time. Once you've got your right water level, you should be good to go for quite a indefinite period of time, as long as you don't have any leaks. I mean, you're getting in there. The idea is to not get bubbling that causes drops to actually make its way into the tubing that leads to the carburetor, because drops of water are not ideal to be sucked into a generator. But water vapor is fine, and that's essentially what we're getting. We're getting a little bit of water vapor, so there will be some reduction of the water level over extensive periods of time.
So
depends on your environmental conditions as
on
well.
this one here, did you have to reject the carbage? Because that would be leaning it out.
No.
No.
Surprise.
So there's a modification to the carburetor in the sense that we've just put is this a Venturi?
It's a Venturi.
An injection point where these plasmoids can go in there. Okay, so it changes the dynamics of the choke a little bit, because we're giving it an additional air source that's after the choke. But you can choke it again by having just a tap on the bottom of your ionizer.
It does affect the governor.
Yeah.
So.
But if you're adding plasmoid after the throttle butterfly, wouldn't that not lean it out?
You
Or is that a
essentially,
combustible?
you essentially have the butterfly all the way closed, so most of the actual air that's being run through is run through the Vardra and everything, and through the bubble
But
system.
it is true that you are leaning
But
out.
you are leaning it right out
But
as
this
well,
is part of what gives you some of this fuel efficiency increase.
yeah.
So I don't consider that to be a problem, as long as you have the control to be able to choke it independently in two places. It makes it a little bit complicated, but again, this is a minimum product. Yeah.
And as we said, it improves better with load.
We haven't modified it. Sorry.
You just tested it with carburetors. Yeah?
Personally, yes, but they have done fuel injected versions in India, but I'm not sure about the differences in setup for that. So,
Or what would be involved. One of the biggest things as well is like the generator runs at a constant RPM. If you've got something that's going to be accelerating and decelerating, you're going to have things changing with that acceleration, you know what I mean? So,
and you also have to account for G-force and stuff like that. So like traditional bubblers like this might not be the ideal solution, but there are other ways of generating those micro bubbles.
Should work with new cars that have the CVT transmissions.
Just forget about it. Everyone will soon just.
Maybe it'll probably work better with them, because that's more of a constant.
Yeah, constant speed.
Yeah, with the CVTs. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Ultimately, with cars, these are it'll be a fun retrofit for an old Buick or something like that, right? But it will be far better when they just start coming out off the production line with these built cars. Yeah. That's about it, guys. Like, you got any other questions? Questions?
So, anyone like Honda or Yamaha looking at those, the little caravan generators?
No comment.
No comment?
No comment.
So, not yet.
Yeah, I think.
It's scalable, isn't it?
Yeah, I expect to see in the near future more of this stuff appearing.
So, one will get on and then the rest will get
Correct.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's the-
motors, all that. Wow.
And if you drive with one of these fitted to your engine into the London's ULEZ zone, how would you prove that you're not emitting?
Take that up with the bureaucrats.
Yeah.
They'll still want to tax you. It's a congestion charge, it's not a pollution charge.
You still don't.
In there, and like this works, and you can see it working, and you can build it yourself, and so it's a great one to sort of focus on. And as you go down that path, you may want to branch out, and you realise that a lot of it's transferable across a lot of different, very interesting avenues, from esoterica and ancient history to modern advanced science.
How good would it be to see this done in technics, or we used to call it technics in New South Wales, at schools, at high school?
I thought you meant the Lego.
Well, yes. I mean,
there's a little metal.
Imagine how popular it'll be when that happens.
oh,
Wow,
yeah.
That'll happen. Imagine how.
Hopefully, we're
Well,
around to see it.
we were at the Primex Field Days, which was one of the largest agricultural expos. That was the second one. The first one we did was Hey?
When was that?
This was about 3 weeks ago. It was in Casino, New South Wales. So we went up there. Jack and I were there. Had a couple of extra guys with us, and we were just doing a little presentation in challenging conditions. But by the last day, we were just like pulling people off the street, running demos every hour. We had quite a lot of interest from one of the major universities up there, and we're still in talks with them to do some stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so it's good. I think it's something that doesn't capture people's imagination when you talk about it. It sounds too crazy to be true. Everyone spent their entire schooling and academic careers being told that this stuff is not possible, and those people are crackpots. But if you even pull people who aren't sciencey or maybe didn't finish school or whatever off the street at one of these expos and show them what you're doing, and they see the numbers, it captures their attention, their imagination. It's like you can kind of feel something. This was my experience with this. It's like I was kind of like, oh, this sounds weird, but I feel like I should pursue this. So that's how it sort of went for me. And I think that you get that reaction when you get a physical unit in front of people. You don't need a gas analyzer. There's a smell. It's a literal sniff test. You can smell when you run an unmodified generator and one of these side by side. You get them going, powering the same things. You turn off the unmodified generator, smell goes away. So you don't need a gas analyzer. We really encourage people to sort of get involved in building their own because the more of these that are seeded throughout Australia, and people can demonstrate them to other people, even people who aren't interested, a lot of them will you'll get a good conversion rate on interest, and you'll start to get a lot more interest, or at least just a tiny bit of mind share, which will pay dividends down the line as we start to get more of a rollout of this technology. If you are interested in more information, so our Chemical Science YouTube channel this is Jordan Collins' channel. You might see Jack featuring in some of the videos. He's got videos of us doing stuff in Lismore, demonstrations. He's got build guides that you can follow along with. If you're interested in the science aspect, Malcolm's got a bunch of lectures on the Strike Foundation HowTube. So it's not YouTube, it's HowTube. These QR codes will just take you to the relevant place to subscribe or bookmark. And then I think most of you guys know that Alpha Prospects is Malcolm's company. They own the IP. Strike Foundation is the licensor in various regions.
Discord thing somewhere.
So?
There's a Discord thing.
Yeah, there's a Discord. Yep. And we've also got a Discord set up, which is so because this is an open source project. If you are thinking about building one, or you just want to follow along while other people do it, we've made a Discord, which is kind of like a live forum thing with multiple channels where people can share comments, conspiracy theories. They can share videos of them, of their attempts at builds. Maybe they need some help with something. Maybe you guys need some help with your build. You don't feel like you're getting the results that you need. This is that resource where we're trying to grow a community that can support each other in building these things, because there's not a central body for support for this stuff. So we're just trying to make it a community supported effort, but you'll find a lot of us guys from the Australian build team and people who have built their own in there. And I have failed at my responsibilities to be in there very much recently, but Jack is there. He's on it. And
there's some great videos on there. One of the guys from America, he's put one on a lawnmower, and he's even got a direct feed going back into the intake. He can close off the exhaust completely and the engine keeps running. He's got videos of all that up on the Discord there as well. So if anyone's interested to get in there and have a chat with him,
the more of you that go in there, even if you're not going to be building your own, like if you get involved in the Discord, the more interesting the conversation will be. Yeah. So please join. And Jack here, he can talk about this.
Oh, well, this is just my TikTok channel.
But Jack has a lot of videos.
Same sort of thing. TikTok's, I'm not sure if you know about TikTok, but it's a lot more, it's very similar to YouTube, but a lot more short form content. Also, like I'll make videos, people like comment on my videos, and then I'll make a video replying to their comment. So it's a little bit more interactive than the YouTube and that sort of thing. So yeah, if anyone's interested, jump on there. I've got a few videos on there.
Yeah. So in terms of social media, please follow Jack on TikTok, Thunderbolt for the community sort of conversation, and our Chemical Science on YouTube.
And there's the testing video, the link QR code
yes,
to our very own testing.
New sign for Energy with Dave, which is also an excellent up-and-coming YouTube
Thank
channel.
you.
Yeah.
Totally
big thing. It's about to go viral.
Totally unprompted.